We are live. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon or evening, depending on what time it is, wherever you are listening
Welcome,
to
welcome,
us.
welcome. I love this show so much, even though today I'm feeling a little bit blurry in my eyeballs, but you're probably right, Juliet. I just need a little rest. I will tell you that would you like to know how I started my morning? I started
Tell
my
us.
morning with actually, you know what? I'm going to make this a PSA for anyone listening. Can we talk about traffic for a second?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, so you all might know we are in South Florida, a burgeoning society. And even though I only travel, a handful of miles in the morning, I had an incredible experience this morning where, as usual, every time you go outside, like you could just die in traffic at any minute. Like it's just, you're just gambling every time. And so this morning I thought I would let everyone know, by the way, if you're driving and you see your turn coming up and you see that you're going to miss it, it's okay. Like, really, just take a breath and go to the next street and turn there safely, right? And then you can turn around and double back, right? Same thing on the highway. You're driving, there's 4 lanes that you have to cross because your exit is coming up. Don't feel like you have to go ahead and cross those 4 lanes and get in front of 100 cars. Just go to the next one, and then when you get off on the next one, it's a grid system, right? You get off, you just turn around, you come back on. It's gonna be okay. Like, help me extrapolate this into a metaphor, Julietta, because honestly, sometimes it just feels so desperate and so crazy, and people are like, I'm gonna miss my exit, and I'm like, I really promise it's gonna be okay. Like, even if you miss it, right?
And what about like everything happens for a reason? Maybe you're missing that exit for a reason. Like, I also, I used to get frustrated by traffic. I mostly don't anymore, except for, was that last week Monday when the crane fell on 95
Yeah,
and
that was
shut down
intense.
95 for 20, not, well, yeah,
Hours. Yeah.
forever.
And then
And of
I don't
course,
know if you heard, but the ambulance on the way to the hospital got into a car accident. The
no.
ambulance carrying one of the persons was in an accident. I mean, it's just like, I don't know if it's awareness. Like, are we all being pulled in so many different directions that we're not focusing on what's around us? Like, I do have to say, like you, I've evolved in my traffic handling. Um, so I try. It's a good practice on remaining neutral. But sometimes it just blows my mind how close we just came to ruining our days, right? Like, listen, in the grand scheme of thing, if my car, gets crumpled up and I need a new one, like it's just an object, right? And it's just money, but it's money and it's time and it's an inconvenience that had you just had a little more awareness, it wouldn't have been a big deal, right?
Well, and you also mentioned time, which this is a fun thing. Um, I grew up in the Midwest where if you're not early, you're late. If you're
Ah,
on time, you're late. Like you're supposed to be early everywhere. And then you move to South Florida, and if you're on time, you're early. And but I also find like in general, people here they do wait till the last minute for everything, and then they're rushing and trying to get somewhere. Um, a skill I have learned is time manipulation. Like you just set your intention that you're going to arrive there at exactly the moment you're supposed to be there and trust. And it's so funny. Like there are times where I've left my house knowing it's virtually impossible for me to arrive at the time that I'm supposed to be there. And I'll end up being 2 minutes early anyway. And it's like, how did that happen? But it's a skill that
absolutely.
people can learn to.
I, I,
Time is
so
not real. We made time up, and
I think you're absolutely correct. And I have done this in the past before, almost as like a little challenge to myself where I've said, okay, normally, when I'm in the matrix, right, I'm looking at this time and there's no way I'm ever going to make it. And so whoever I'm in the car with, I'm like, watch us make it. And like you said, you just set the intention. And I can't tell you the mechanics of how it works, but I can tell you that I get every green light. And like you said, sometimes I even get there with a minute or two to spare. So setting those intention works. I agree with you. I agree with you. I wish
So
you could.
what
We're
our
going to have
message
to create
is,
pamphlets and throw them into the car next to me.
what our message to out there, everybody, is relax, drive safely, everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. And let that be a metaphor for your life. If you miss something, don't worry. It'll come back.
Exactly.
You've got time. You can go back and do it again. If not in this lifetime, in the next.
All right. Shall we bring our guest on today?
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
Me too. Welcome, Limor.
Hi, Graciela and Julieta. It's great to be here.
Listen to her
Welcome,
amazing
welcome.
audio. She's such an expert. She sounds so good.
Thank you. I invested in some gear.
Give
So
us
she's
a
joining
little.
us all the way from Israel. We're like on opposite sides of the world here.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that. That's amazing. Awesome. How did you find us?
On how did I find you? On Podmatch.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The universe has a way of bringing us the perfect people.
The
I
world
also
is getting
told her
smaller.
she is our most rescheduled podcast guest because she was scheduled to come in when we needed to take a little vacation, and we had our whole co-host changeover, and then even after that I messed some stuff up in the scheduling, but she made it. She's here and we're so excited. So will you please introduce yourself to our audience, tell them a little bit about who you are and what magic you bring to the world?
Sure. So pleasure to be here. And by the way, try traffic in Tel Aviv and you'll see what is craziness. And nice to meet everyone. So I'm Limor, and it's really a little bit hard for me to describe what I am because I do many things today. But I can tell you that my background is tech. I worked over 20 years in the tech industry. I started my career as a software engineer, and I grew into leadership positions. And my passion was always supporting women and seeing, I wanted to see more women there because I was lonely. I mean, I was surrounded mostly by men. It wasn't bad, but I wanted to see more women. And I tried to make an impact when I was still unemployed. And I also used to live in the US up until 3 years ago. And upon returning back, I decided if I change my life so dramatically and I move countries, I might as well also change my career. So I decided to focus on that passion and support women. And I do that by coaching. So I did took a coaching certification and I coach women mainly in tech leadership. And I also do other things. I found out they actually have multiple skills and I can do more. So I do workshops. I have a lot of experience in mentorship. So I help companies run mentorship programs. And I'm happy and I feel empowered to support others and blessed.
Beautiful. And I love that you've allowed yourself to change careers. I think, I think it was primarily the generation before us that like you picked your career and that's what you did. And you picked your company and you stayed with that company until you retired. And it was kind of like marriage, till death do you part. And I think we all have so much inside of us to only do one thing in our lifetime is not enough. So
I don't
love
think it's
that you
I don't even think it's natural. Like, I don't even think that's how we're intended to be, right? Like, that's, I mean, the most prolific time period in history, right? They called it the Renaissance. Renaissance became Renaissance for a reason, right? Because people are multi-passionate, and it was those that just allowed themselves to be multi-passionate, right? That had that.
Absolutely.
And how exciting that you've had so many different transitions and evolutions. I think that's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to defy the kind of the convention that someone and I don't like titles. I'll tell you something. So I have a problem with titles because titles are boxing us into something very specific. And that's how kind of, I grew up, right? I mean, you learn a profession, you find a job, and you are boxed in a specific kind of title, and that's what you do, and that's what you can do. So I want to defy that and tell people, well, you have multiple skills, you just need to find them and allow yourself to experiment and and be.
evolve, right? Because who you are in your 20s is not who you are in your 40s, right? You have different skills and different abilities and a totally different place you're coming from. You know, people, for me, I always say I'm a photographer right now. I have been a lot of other things, but what the common thread in all of my different avocations has been that I love helping people. I love helping people evolve. And does that mean I'm going to be a photographer forever? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no, but that's okay, right?
Yes,
Um,
and you can be more than a photographer. You can be multiple things at once.
well, Julietta knows if there's anything I can do. I'm on too many. I've been taking things off, but yes, I'm on a lot of boards and a lot of things. I am multi-passionate. So you're a woman after my own heart. I love storytelling. Tell me a story with everything that you've done and everything that you're doing. Especially, I love the mentoring women. Give me one of your success stories. Tell me something that keeps you going in what you're doing right now.
What keeps me going is working with someone, and it can be as short as 1 or 2 sessions to more, and seeing how this woman evolved. I had, to be honest, a woman that I met only once, and
Wow.
she was struggling with figuring out how she was kind of stuck in a specific role, and she wanted to move up the ladder, and she was a little bit blocked, to be honest, by the company, by the HR and all that. And we talked about it, and I gave her some insights, and after one session she was able eventually to, I'm not saying that it happened immediately after our call, but she eventually evolved, and she moved on, and she found a different company. So just being present in those incredible women's lives and be able to support them is what keeps me going.
You know, I think sometimes we're just looking for permission, right? Like one session, that's really amazing. That one session opened up her mind to what she needed to go through, right? So sometimes it's just that one thing that someone needs to tell you that just makes you think, you know what? You're absolutely right. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So that's why, by the way, my mentality is like I'm trying to help someone. And when I feel that they don't need my help so much, then when I tell them, okay, it's time to part ways. So I don't like selling packages and how many sessions, as many as you need,
Mm.
as many as I bringing you value and helping you. And when I feel like, just today, I had a session and I felt like, okay, we met for 9 sessions, and I felt, okay, it seems like that's what you need right now. And you need
Beautiful.
to just continue and let me know if you need my help again.
I love that because in my profession too, I'm a physical therapist in case you don't know Limor, but uh so often in the industry we've got PTs like, okay, you come in, what's your diagnosis? Okay, you've got back pain. Okay, you need to come in 2 to 3 times a week for 8 to 12 weeks. And when I tell people, I see my clients sometimes one, sometimes 3 or 4. Occasionally, have people that have really complex histories and do require more care. But there's all this push in our industry to sell these big packages and get them in and take all their money. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so
No,
I really had to. That's why I work by myself for myself alone, because I'm not interested in that whole mentality of, you know, sell them big packages, sell them big packages. No, give them what they need, give them the value that you have to give them, and then let them fly.
absolutely. And so you're motivated by the impact you're able to make. And once you realize that that impact has been, you've done that, then no need to continue, right? I mean, that's the way I believe. I believe that when you actually do something that aligns with your values, and when I bring value to others, I will be rewarded.
I was just going to say, and for those worried about the money I think comes even better when you're more honest and more authentic and more true, right? Because Would I rather go to a physical therapist that needs 8 to 10 weeks to resolve my problem? Or would I rather go to Julieta with 2 visits?
Yeah.
We're done, right? Like that sounds like a better deal to me, you know? And so the more of that, I mean, I would tell all my friends, right? Like, I mean, not for anything, but I actually buy PT gift certificates for my friends to Julieta. Like, I don't know if anyone else gives any their friends PT gift certificates, but I do. I'm like, you need a Julieta session.
That's wonderful.
I don't know if other people gift sessions, but people do gift cards for sessions with me all the time. So.
Only you, Julieta, only you. I've never heard any other major physical therapy conglomerate giving out gift certificates. So that's what makes you magical.
All right. I want to, because we're talking about women and you were talking about, wanting more women in tech and, women have so much to offer out there. So we'd like to know what's one piece of advice you got from a woman that created impact in your life.
Yeah, so there was a company that I worked at, and I was struggling to get to the next level. And it wasn't so much what she told me, rather than what she did. So she was a peer to me, and I saw how determined she was. She knew exactly what she wanted. She communicated that very, very clearly, and no one was gonna stop her. Like, she was unstoppable and very determined, and that motivated me to, I wouldn't say be like her, so it's be like me, my own way. But I learned from her the determination, knowing what you want, not giving up, and being sometimes assertive, right? And telling what you want, like you're not gonna get away with it. Like, that's what I need, that's what I want, and you need to support me in my career. Eventually it's going to help me, and it did. It took me some time, but it did. And I did it my own version.
That's right. I have a friend that always says the better you treat yourself, the more it gives other women permission to do the same. And that's exactly what that woman did for you, right? Was by taking care of herself, she opened the door for you to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
And actions speak louder than words.
This is true. I'm always one of those, I'll have what she's having people. So honestly, this podcast is so much for my own personal satisfaction, aside from our listeners, because I'm like, you know what? Limor did it. I'm going to do it too. This is great. So in imparting knowledge, do you have a particular book that you like? We're big on keeping track of what motivates folks. And do you have any books that you'd like to recommend?
One of the books I really like is by Robin Sharma, and it's not The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, although it's a great book. It's The Leader Who Had No Title. And I typically give that book recommendation to people who are confined by a specific title. They think like, oh, I need to wait to be promoted in order to come with, initiatives and do more. And I usually tell them, okay, read that book, and you'll be inspired to be a better version of yourself, and not to wait for someone to give you permission or to give you the title to be a leader. And you can be a leader without the title. So that's a book I really love.
Nice. We've had this question on for all of the seasons of the podcast, and sometimes I think, oh, we're just going to keep hearing the same books over and over again, and so let's move on to a new question. But we've had so many new books, this one included. No one has brought up that book before.
That's great. So. I'm happy that I was able to bring something new.
Absolutely. My dream is to have the Goddess library. At some point, I will purchase all of these books and we'll create the library, and then anybody can come.
Incredible.
Love it. So you've made a lot of decisions, a lot of choices, taken risks in your life. What is one risk that you've taken that you know you will never regret?
I don't regret anything. I'll be honest with you, because I don't believe in that. I believe in always learning from experience. You don't need to regret something you did, even if you made a mistake, because a mistake is a tool for you to learn. But if you talk about risk, actually today I went to speak with high school students we have something called the Girls Week here in Israel, which is basically about inspiring the next generation of women leaders. It's inspiring middle school and high school students. So I went to talk to those students and talked about risks I took. And I gave them 3 examples. One risk I took is that I moved with 4 very young children at the end of 2010 from Israel to the US to Denver, Colorado, leaving a job I had, a comfortable job I had, and going to the unknown, to a place I didn't know, and to the snow and weather I was not accustomed to, and I didn't know anyone.
Wow.
The second risk I did was going back here to Israel in December 2019 with 4 teenagers. And again, I had a lot of unknowns. And the third one is basically decided that I'm going to leave the career path that I was at, leave everything I knew, and start my own business. So those are the 3 examples I gave them, and they all had something in common, right? It's about taking risks. It's about doing something that terrified me, something I didn't have all the answers, but I felt that was the right thing for me. I followed my instincts. I followed what I believed was the right thing to do.
That is so amazing. I'm always I've lived in this country my whole life, and my parents came here from Cuba and from Spain. They immigrated to Cuba. And so I'm always so excited and impressed by people that are willing to just live in a totally different country with a different language and a different climate and different everything. And you had all your children too, which is challenging on its own. That's really, really amazing. I mean, that's a wonderful story. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
There's a saying in Spanish that translates to it's a rough translation, but every baby is born with a loaf of bread under its arm. And the meaning is that we're all born with everything that we need, right? Like, you have a baby, don't worry about how you're going to feed it. Don't worry about how you're going to raise it. It all works out, right? It's going to be fine. And I thought of that when you said you moved not knowing anyone, because that sounds nerve-wracking to me, right? I'd want to know something familiar. But truthfully, you had everything that you needed within you, right? To create the life that you wanted.
Yeah, I love that. Can you say that in Spanish? I love the language.
In Spanish, it would be, let me see, I guess.
Sorry if I put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I was just trying to remember exactly how my mom used to say it, but it was like, cada niño nace con un pedazo de pan debajo del brazo, I'll have to look it up to tell you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
But that's it, is that we're all born with everything that we need.
Absolutely. And I also believe that we are all perfect. We are perfect, right? I told you are perfect. Everyone is perfect. And I'm not in the business of fixing people, because I worked many years in management and leadership. And a lot of times, it's kind of the org culture that we need to fix people. We need to tell them what they're not good at and fix them. I'm not in the business of fixing anyone. Everyone is perfect the way they are. I'm just helping them to find their strength, and the things that they are amazing at, and let them shine more.
Yeah, I will say that perfect thing, I would say we're all perfectly imperfect. But I grew up with wonderful parents who told me I was perfect all of the time, which was, how wonderful is that? Except for later on as an adult, I realized that also created limitations for me, because I stopped myself from doing things that I couldn't do perfectly. I thought, I'm perfect. I always have to be perfect. And if I can't do that perfect, then I'm not going to do it. So, I had to do a whole clearing on that. But also then, getting that awareness later on in life, now I try stuff all the time that I'm going to fail at, and it's awesome. Failing is awesome. But that word perfect, it has
I see
a lot of baggage.
Yeah, I understand. And yes, I'm not I'm always, by the way, I'm doing a lot of imperfect things. I'm not a perfectionist at all. And like you mentioned, Julieta, like I want to do something, even if I don't know if I'll fail or maybe I'll do it okay, maybe I'll do it great. But I think just taking the action and doing is an experimenting is the important thing for me.
Yeah, I
We've
think
said many times this podcast evolved out of that because when we started it, we had no idea how to do a podcast. And old Julieta probably would have been like, I'll leave that to people who know how to do that. And instead, now my motto is everything is figure outable. Sounds like fun. Let's try it.
that's
Here
true.
we are 3 years later.
I'll tell you guys a funny story. One day I was so I have twins, boy girl twins, and I've been driving them to school every day of their life, and that was always our time to just chat in the car. And to this day, we still solve a lot of problems in that little drive. So one day when my kids were really little, my daughter was playing Simon. I don't know if you know that game where it's like a circle and it has four colored buttons, and then each button makes a certain tone. And so the machine does a certain pattern, and then you have to copy that pattern. So it might go beep boop, and you have to go beep boop, right? And then it'll go beep boop boop, and then you have to go beep boop boop, right? So you have to follow it. And once you get to like 7 or 8 around there, it gets a little hard to remember the exact pattern. So my daughter's little, she's playing this game in the back seat, and she keeps getting the because she makes an error, right? And it keeps like, and then so I feel I'm in the front seat like sweating, thinking, oh, my poor girl, she feels such failure, right? Like all this is in my head. And I say, it's okay, Abigail, you're gonna, it's okay, you're gonna do better next time. And she's like, Mom, that's how the game is played. And in that moment, I was just like, you know what? I didn't have to say a word. You're absolutely right. This is how the game is played. And this is how life is played, right? I mean, she just blew my mind in this little drive to school, like this is what happens. Like you do something and you do it a certain way, right? Perfect, failure, imperfect, whatever the word du jour is. But you do it and then you do it again. And the process is failing. Like the process does include, right? Success includes the attempts, the practice.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They say that with like musicians that play in a symphony, like, wow, that's so amazing. How did you get that way? Practice.
Yeah.
And what is
for
practice?
sure.
Not failing.
Yeah. How old are your twins? Because I have twins also.
Oh, dude, they're 13.
Oh, wow. So very close age to mine. Mine are 12 and a half.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're born in May. All my kids are born in May. I have 4 children. All of them are born in May. I guess that's the way the cycle works for me.
Yeah, we have that, and then we have 28 and 26, and the 28-year-old has 2 little girls too. So we have grandparent stuff going on too.
Wow.
So, but each child brings their own lessons. My personal opinion, I learn so much from them in equal amounts that they learn from me. Really, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Incredible.
So I want to ask you to share one last thing with us. And I know you're going to have something so good. So I'm already excited to hear it. But it is my mission to have a little bank of deliciously wonderful stories that we can all look back on in a time that we might need a little pick-me-up. So in your many experiences, can you just share one of your sweetest, most delicious memories?
Wow. Sweetest, most delicious memory.
Mm-hmm. Something that makes you feel really good. Look at her big smile. If you guys are listening to this on podcast land, you have to come on YouTube and look at her smile.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to pick just one thing, but obviously, I mean, all the birth of my kids were very impactful experiences for me because I felt like, wow, I'm actually making a magic here. So I remember all of them. It's like, it's a magic. It's a magic thing. And if to take it something career related, I feel like every time after I did something that I was terrified from, and I found out, oh, actually, it's okay. It wasn't so bad as I thought it would be. It's a memory that I like remembering. Like, for example, I was interviewing for a company and I had to travel for it and I had to present, and I was absolutely terrified from it. And after I did it, I realized, wow, I'm actually not that bad. And I did it. I was so proud of myself that I overcame the fear and faced it.
I went through a brief period, probably right before the pandemic, where like I was addicted to that feeling of doing things that I'd never done before. And it was just like, the year of yes. If, whatever
I did one of
opportunity
those.
came, yes, let's do it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, let's try everything. And after a little while, I was like, I think you can put slow down on this a little bit. You don't have to do every single thing that comes into your awareness, but there is that feeling of exhilaration, accomplishment that comes from trying something that you haven't done before, or taking a risk and
Yeah.
being brave.
And for me, it goes in phases, right? I mean, there are some phases that I go through that I'm doing a lot of things that are scary. And sometimes I just need to chill a little bit, right? To be comfortable for a while and not do crazy stuff. So I think it comes and goes.
I think there's a lot of value, like you said, in looking back at what you have accomplished and relishing in that feeling again, right? Like just the way that your body remembers something traumatic and you can bring up those same feelings again. The same way you can do that the same way with your accomplishments and the joy that you had in reaching those accomplishments, one of the little journaling things that I like to do when I remember, because not perfect, um, is I would write down on one page things that I'm grateful for, right? But then on the other page, what are my goals? And you write them as I have or I am statements, right? I
Yeah.
have this, I did this. But what's really fun is sometimes I'll be like, I feel like I've been writing this for a long time. And then I flip back a couple of pages and I realize, man, I used to write this. And now that seems like so easy,
Yeah.
right? And now my new thing will one day look like that. So I love sitting in that feeling of, you know what? I did do it. I am really good at this. And the next level is going to feel just as easy as this one, right?
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed our conversation so much.
Me too. Me too.
Do you ever
I'm
come back
like,
to the US?
Yes, I do. I mean, in the summer, I'll be again in Boston area. We have friends there. And maybe before that, I don't know. We'll see.
One of these days, I'm going to plan a goddess retreat, and we're going to have you come. So
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
coordinate.
love that. I love Florida, or if you do it someplace else, that's fine too.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful having you on the show. Totally worth all of the glitches and everything that we went through to get you here. So I'm so glad you were patient with all of that and stuck through and showed up. So
Absolutely. Thank you so
so
much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing.
all right, everybody, have a great day.